They couldn't admit me because there were no available rooms. This is a hospital. So you just like injected fentanyl into my body with a baby inside of me when I'm not even supposed to be eating deli meat when I'm pregnant? What? Hey guys, what's up? It's Maddie and welcome back to my channel. So today's video has been the very requested and long-awaited birth story of Darren, and I'm just gonna sit here with my heating blanket. I'm freezing, and I'm just gonna read off everything right here that happened because my brain is literally the size of a pea. And most of this stuff I don't even recall. I had to go back and literally watch my vlog and kind of re-jog my memory because this whole thing was a complete blur to me. So much happened, you guys. So I'm just gonna get right into the video. Okay, so the week leading up to me going into labor, I thought I was contracting literally every single day, and I was hoping that I was going to go into labor. So this is my second baby, and they say that, you know, you're supposed to wait 18 months in between each pregnancy or whatever. I waited like 6 to 7 months. They told me the likelihood of him coming early was pretty good, and my labor this time was most likely gonna be a lot faster than my first one. Which, if you're new here, my first baby came within like 8 to 9 hours, but I was technically laboring for like 7. So it was really fast, and it overall was like a really good experience. So this time around, I was like, there's no way, like literally no way that I'm going to get this lucky again. I have like horrible anxiety, and I have even worse anxiety when I'm in pain. I get like really scared because like, so anything can happen when you're in labor. Like there are many risks, and I didn't really know about that until I had my first baby. I was kind of just like, go with the flow, like breathe through it, like you got it. And it actually worked for me. Like I had a really positive mindset and I had a really positive birth. This time, yeah, it wasn't that great. So basically it was the 17th of July and my house was still looking crazy, and my due date was the 16th, and I was like, alright, I'm already late, my house isn't clean, nothing is ready. So I literally busted my ass like cleaning my entire house. I'm like, please put me into labor, like I need to get this baby out of me. I'm going to explode. I have 1 brain cell left. I am exhausted. I don't even know what my first name is. That was my whole mindset this whole pregnancy. You guys, I am so freaking white, oh my God. So I went to bed on the 17th, and I woke up in the middle of the night to like use the bathroom, and I just remember being in like horrible pain. Like my muscles really ached as if I was contracting in my sleep for a while. I thought it was probably just like gas, or like my body was just like falling apart because of how pregnant I was. And I ended up going back to sleep. I didn't really sleep well that night. I remember like kind of sleeping but being awake / dreaming and just feeling like pain throughout the whole night, but I didn't wake up from it. And it wasn't until like 6:30 in the morning when Kevin was getting ready for work, I like sat up with him and I was like, I don't feel good. Now I had gone through labor before, so I had a pretty good idea of what contractions felt like, but it had been so long obviously, and I was always having Braxton Hicks, that I didn't know if I was just like uncomfortable or if I had been contracting in my sleep. And I told him to just like go to work anyway because I didn't want to be the person that like cries wolf, and like he ended up missing work from it, and I just didn't want to do that. So I told him if he went to work and I was in labor, I'd call him. And so right when he was about to leave, I remember having the worst contraction like ever immediately. I mean, like usually the first time, like when you're going into labor, like it's kind of crampy and you're like, okay, this could be a contraction. This was as if I had been contracting for like hours, and it took my breath away. I remember like saying ow throughout the whole thing and like clenching my fist, and I was like, I think I'm in labor. And I was like, I think I've been laboring throughout my whole sleep. So he's like, all right, I think I'm gonna stay. And I was like, no, it's fine. What? Literally, that should just show you like how far off my brain was. Like, so Kevin ended up going to work, and I decided to like time them because it had only been one of them, so I wasn't really sure if it was labor. And sure enough, another one came. My contractions had become like 30 to 40 seconds long, about like 7 minutes apart, and that's when I decided that I would call Kevin. Like I sent him a screenshot of like my contractions on my app, and I was like, literally, this is labor and my contractions are so close together. I think I'm gonna have this baby like in our living room. Like I was just getting so scared. And he told me that he wasn't even near his car. Like, he had dropped his car off at the warehouse and he was already in the work truck headed to like a new location. And I was like, this is literally going to be the worst day of my entire life. Yeah. So I called my mom and I told her that I was in labor, and like my mom was like, oh my god, like I'm on my way, like freaking out. It's 7:30 in the morning. I was so surprised she was even awake. I was like, please answer the phone, please be awake. They were both awake. My mom and my dad drove over here because they were gonna take Landon for the time being while I was at the hospital. And I don't know if I'm the only person, but something about men, like when you're in labor, they think it's the best time to like make you laugh and to like crack jokes. Laughing while you're contracting is the worst thing ever, because when you're laughing, you're tightening your muscles, and when you're contracting, your muscles are already like clenching for dear life. So it's the worst thing. Oh, it's just take it from me. Just take it from me. That's all I can tell you. So I ended up getting dropped off at the hospital with my mom, and we got sent into triage, and I like changed into my gown and everything. Kevin had made at home. He was showering, getting his bag ready. I don't live that far from my hospital. It's like a 10-minute drive, so I wasn't worried about him missing anything at this point. But they came in, and I like remember her asking me like how I was feeling, and I was like, my contractions are really close together. Like my first birth was really fast. Like I'm kind of nervous. This is like a lot happening at once. You have 9 months to prepare for this, and I'm like freaking out. So my contractions had gone from 10 minutes to 7 minutes to 5 minutes to 3 minutes by the time I got to the hospital, and they were still lasting about 40 seconds. So I thought I was gonna have the baby really soon, and when she checked me, I'm pretty sure she said I was only at a 3 and I was 75% effaced, which was like the biggest bummer ever, because not to keep talking about my first birth because there's a whole video on it, but I was already like 5 centimeters and like completely effaced when I got to the hospital. So in my mind, I just had like a completely different mindset about how all of this was gonna happen. I was really hopeful that it was gonna happen fast. That wasn't the case. Also, being checked while you're having a contraction is so painful, and that had like never happened to me before. Like they like check you periodically, and that pain is like, ugh. I can just like feel it and remember it, and it's cringeworthy. I had been there for about an hour or two, and my contractions literally started to slow down, and they were getting less painful, and I was actually getting really upset because I did not want to be sent home. Like I am already like 2 days overdue, and he was supposed to be early, and I was so frustrated. I was so uncomfortable. I had asked them if it was like possible that my labor could stop, because I had been contracting like for a couple hours at this point, and they were really close together, and then they kind of were just stopping, and she said that they could just slow down for a long period of time before they picked back up, which in my mind is basically like me not laboring, because I'm not really making any kind of progress. So the 18th was my best friend's birthday, and I told her like, I don't think I'm having the baby on your birthday, which would have been literally so insane, because we were talking about it like, what if this baby comes on your birthday? But he didn't. But I texted her and I was like, I'm leaving the hospital, my contractions have slowed down, like I want to see you, where are you? And she was at PF Chang's with her boyfriend, so me, my mom, and Kevin, we all met her out for lunch, and I was still contracting like throughout the entire day. My contractions just ended up going from 3 minutes to 15 minutes apart, and those were still lasting like just as long, and they were still like incredibly painful. I mean, enough for me to talk through, but the pain was definitely like still there. After PF Chang's, which was about at like 5 o'clock, I want to say, I ended up dropping my mom off at home, and then Kevin and I went home. He was super tired because he got up early for work, so he decided to take a nap. I decided to go and get a milkshake, and I was walking around for a little bit hoping to like kickstart something, but nothing was happening, of course. So I came back home and I told myself like, this is probably your only chance to get sleep. So I took a nap with Kevin, and then around 7 o'clock I woke up again in the same kind of pain I did from that morning, and it just felt like my body was on fire, and I knew it must have been contractions. So usually people like to labor in baths and stuff because the warm water relaxes your muscles. So I decided to get into the bath, like literally hoping that it would dilate me so fast that I'd have the baby in the tub. So I'm sitting in the tub and I'm just like counting trying to keep track of these contractions, and I noticed that they start to pick up, so I'm kind of getting excited. And then that's when the pain really started to kick in again. I was like, okay, I'm a little bit nervous, maybe I should get out of the tub. And Kevin was still sleeping, so I was like, you know what, I'll just hang out in here for like a little bit longer. And then it really started to hurt, and I was like, nope, I'm getting out of this tub. So I got out of the tub, and I want to say it's like 8 o'clock. I might have been in there for like a half hour or so. So we made our way back to the hospital, and I got checked into triage again. And when they finally came in to check me, I was 4 centimeters dilated and 100% effaced. And I told them, I was like, I really don't want to go home. Like, it's already like towards the night. I was here early in the morning, and I'm obviously still contracting. And I think if I go home, like, there's a chance that I won't make it to the hospital. Like, that was really my mindset. I felt a lot safer being in the hands of like doctors and nurses. I don't think I could ever be the person that gives birth in their home, because that just seems terrifying to me. So I was like, please don't send me home. And they were really nice, and they told me that I could stay. The only thing was, this is how I knew that things were not going to go the way that I wanted them to, and they were not going to go in my favor. The nurse told me that they couldn't admit me because there were no available rooms. This is a hospital. I'm really confused. So I'm just sitting there like, lovely. And the only reason that made me really frustrated was because they couldn't connect an IV to a fluid bag for me, and you need one bag of fluid to go through your body to get an epidural. So I was like, is there any way that you could do this for me in triage? And they were like, technically no, like you have to be in a room. And I was like, lovely. So another nurse came in. She was super sweet, asking me questions, the same ones that I had been asked earlier. And she also brought in like a student doctor, because my hospital is a teaching hospital. We called my mom. She said that she would come back because I really wanted Kevin by my side the whole time. I felt like more comfortable when he was with me. So if we ever needed anything, my mom was kind of just there to like help us. So that was like really sweet of her. She was like a huge help. But anyway, she ended up telling me that she could put the IV in my arm, but obviously not connected to anything. And I was happy about that because I hate needles. They really scare me, and getting an IV always hurts. I hate it. So I was happy to get that over with. And then after that was put in, my mom showed up. And I can't even make this shit up, you guys. I was in triage for 3 hours, and a nurse probably came in about like twice within the 3 hours that I was in there. No one checked me or anything. And I remember looking at my mom, and I was like, this is like horrible. I'm like, I'm not even gonna get an epidural. Like, this is gonna be painful really fast, and I'm probably gonna have a natural birth. Now listen, I would love to have a natural birth if I was in labor for like 8 hours. So they came in around midnight. They were like, okay, like we have a room for you. We're gonna bring you in there. And they asked if I wanted to walk, and I did. I wanted to like speed things up, even though it was like crippling to walk. And as soon as I got into the room, you guys, I hit hard labor like being hit by a truck. As soon as I laid on that bed, I remember like having a contraction and just kind of like breathing and relaxing, and then all of a sudden like another one happened, and they were just back to back. They were 1 to 2 minutes apart, lasting for a minute. And my mom was like, you're in hard labor now, like this is when it gets really hard. And I just remember being like, I'm gonna cry, like this hurts so bad. So in my first labor, I didn't experience contractions like that. As soon as I hit hard labor, I think I had like 3 contractions back to back. The anesthesiologist came in, so I had never like fully experienced pain like that, at least. And I have no pain tolerance. It hurts to brush my hair. Like, I am so sensitive to pain. I don't know what it is. Like, I try to like, you know, tell myself like it doesn't hurt, but that doesn't work. When I got into the room, the nurse had asked me like if I plan on getting an epidural, and I was like, absolutely. Is there a way like I can get it now? And she told me that all of the rooms are backed up, and there are 2 people with a C-section ahead of me, and then like a couple other like people ahead of me to get regular epidurals. So when they told me that it wasn't gonna be like another couple hours before I had an epidural, I just remember crying. I was so over it. I was so nervous, if anything, which I think is what started to make me feel really scared and anxious. But around like an hour and a half later, my nurse comes back in, and she's like between like a couple rooms. It's like me and like a couple other women, and I was begging her. I was like, I need some kind of medication. I need something in my IV. And then another one of my nurses came in and he checked me and he said the reason I was in so much pain was because my water was bulging. So the best way for me to describe that pain is like you getting a small bruise and then kind of like sticking your knuckle on it and not stopping, and that bruise is kind of just getting worse. So I was going on and on about how I wanted medication, and my nurse told me that my doctor advised them not to give me medicine because I wanted an epidural and I was most likely going to be getting the epidural soon. And I was like, I don't want this to be based on a what if. Like, I really need this medicine now. So she called my doctor back and he said it was okay. Thank God. Like, oh my, like I was so happy until this girl, oh my, oh, you guys. They told me they were going to inject fentanyl into my IV. Now, I don't do drugs, okay? Like, I don't know what fentanyl is. I know now, but then I literally had no idea. So I'm like laying there and I remember her injecting it in, and I, this is so weird how it happened, but I was like, so how long is this gonna take? It was as if I was hit with like the stupid stick. I couldn't think, I couldn't even speak. My tongue felt so numb and it made my heart race. Like I remember her saying that like my heart rate was going up, and like, duh. I felt like I was having a horrible anxiety attack for hours, and I asked her how long it was gonna work and she said like 20 minutes. So you just like injected fentanyl into my body with a baby inside of me when I'm not even supposed to be eating deli meat when I'm pregnant. So it did take the edge off a little bit, but I still felt everything. It was not as excruciating, if anything, and it lasted like 15-20 minutes, and then there I was again. And it got to the point where I was just crying and I was like, I need to get into the bath. Like, I need like some sort of warmth to relax my muscles. It just felt like everything was so tight and like I couldn't breathe. And she told me she didn't want me to get into the tub because she thought it would let my body relax and I'd have the baby in the tub. And I was like, well, I'm only at a 6, so how would I progress that fast? Like, I just want to be in there for a little bit. And then I asked her again, like, she came in about a half hour later and she was like, all right, you can get in the tub, but as soon as I say get out of the tub, like, you need to get out because we're not having a baby in the bath today. So yeah, she wasn't really that pleasant. So she wasn't necessarily like mean or rude or anything. She just knew that I was in a state of like fog, and she really just wanted it to be clear that we can't have a baby in a normal bathtub because it's like a regular small bathtub, not a birthing tub. So I'm in this small bath. I'm like kind of scrunched up, which hurt even more, and it made it so much worse. I told Kevin after 2 contractions, I'm like, I need to get out. Like, I need to get out of this bath. It hurts way too much. And as soon as I was getting out, my nurse walked in and she told me that the anesthesiologist was coming in. I needed to get dressed. And that's when I literally heard angels singing. The best news ever. So I got my epidural and the left side of my body was still contracting and I could like still feel everything while the right side was numb. And this epidural was a lot different from my first one. My first one completely numbed me from the waist down. I could feel nothing. And then this time, it definitely wasn't as strong. I could still feel a ton of pressure on my right side, just not really any like burning or like stinging kind of pain. I was definitely more relaxed, and she said the epidural was gonna help me a lot because my muscles were tensing up so much and I was fighting it so bad that I wasn't allowing my body to contract. So she said now that I had the epidural, like my body was gonna be able to relax and I'd progress faster, which I was excited for, but I still was in a good amount of pain. Like, it didn't go away and I was nervous that it wasn't going to work. So I laid on my left side. I think I might have slept for like 3 hours on and off. Not really fully. I was on a small, like Kevin was laying with me, so I was on this hospital bed with him, still contracting on my left side. And this has never happened. Like, my water did not break naturally the first time. Sorry, TMI, but so I'm sleeping and I hear the loudest like gushing sound, and my water had burst, but it had all burst. They came in, they checked me, and they said that I was at a 9, almost to a 10. So they got Kevin out of the bed, they sat me up, they like cleaned everything off, and right after that happened, my whole body just started shaking horribly. This is my favorite part about the whole story. My first labor was so amazing because I had the most amazing nurse ever. She comforted me, she was there for me, she knew when I wanted my family out of the room. Like, she really looked out for me. I love her, she's amazing. And this time when my water broke, when my mom went to go get a nurse, she was there. And she came in and she recognized me and she was talking to me and she's like, you got this. She was like, it's gonna be painful right now, but like, you're okay, your baby's gonna come soon. So I was just so happy she was in there, and like my body just started shaking like crazy, as if I was freezing, like my mouth is chattering. And she told me it's because when your water breaks, like sometimes you get like a surge of hormones and it makes your body shiver. So right after my water broke, I swear my epidural just stopped working, because I have never felt this kind of pressure before in my entire life. I could physically feel him like from my stomach like moving down, and every time a contraction came and he started to move, I thought he was like coming out. So I was sitting up, like my legs were up, kind of ready to push, and I was like, I think he's coming, like I really want my doctor. And they were saying he was on the way and that the baby was still not there yet. He was just descending. And you guys, think my epidural might have like worn out. I don't know what was happening, but I felt everything and I couldn't wait to push to get rid of that pressure. So that was going on for maybe like 15 minutes, and then my doctor finally walked in and he checked me and said I'm fully to 10, like he could see the baby and I was ready to push. So the first push, most of his head was already out, and that's when it hurt the most. And I looked at my nurse and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I'm so sorry, but I can't do this. It's too much. I don't know what was going on. Like, I just didn't want to do it. It was like it hurt too much to push, and then it hurt just as bad not to push. So the second contraction came and I pushed with everything that I had, and he came right out. So I pushed for 2 minutes and he came out, and he was born at 6:43 in the morning on July 19th, which is my parents' anniversary. And I just think it's so cool, like the whole thing. Like, he shares the birth month with my dad and he's named after my dad. And I love everything about this birth story because it is so different from my first. And I fell so in love, you guys. Like, he was so small and just so perfect. He had like the tiniest little feet and hands. And weirdly enough, he weighed 8 pounds 1 ounce, same exact size as Landon. And now that Darren's older, like, they're starting to look so much alike. And he's such a sweetheart. He is so just sweet and smiley all the time. He like never cries. He is just the perfect little baby, and I love him so much. I'm so blessed to have him. There you go, guys. That is everything that happened when I was in labor with Darren. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's taken me like way too long to film this. I just wanted to wait until I was ready to like share everything and kind of remember it all, because it was such a blur for me, mostly because I was panicking the entire time. It's not scary. I want more children, and if I can go through that with literally no pain tolerance, like, you guys can too. I hope you guys took something away from this video. Give it a like and subscribe down below, and I will see you in my next video.